This is going to be a review of The Rising of the Shield Hero, Volume 12. Now, this particular volume was jam-packed. Like, quite honestly, there was a lot going on. There was two complete story arcs going on, one just kind of mini arc, and the end of the bigger arc overarching. But let's just get into some of the highlights from the chapter. This marks the beginning of the Alta Raftalia rivalry. At the very beginning, you have Naofumi ask the blacksmith in the capital to make a meteorite katana out of the meteorite shield that he has, so that he can have Raftalia a weapon copy it, and later on in the story, like a couple chapters after that, they end up getting that katana. So that's pretty cool. It's basically the same as the shooting star sword that Ren has, but obviously it's a katana. So The Alchemist, if you're familiar with the web novel, The Alchemist shows up in this chapter. Obviously that's Rat. She joins the village, she becomes a slave, that whole dealio. She's working with the bioplants and the monsters and all of that. This is also the volume where the village is gifted a bunch of monster eggs, and one of those eggs is in fact a dragon. So that required the introduction of Windia, the slave that was raised by the dragon that Ren ended up killing, and then Naofumi subsequently finished off in the very beginning of the story. So that dragon, the little baby dragon, is named Galian. We don't know it at the time, but he's actually named after the zombie dragon of late. So yeah, Naofumi's basically working in the village pretty hard most of the time, but Galian feels that he isn't getting enough attention, so he ends up like ding-dong ditching him, and that leads to some hilarity and another rivalry sparking between Galian the dragon and Philo the Philolial. So two rivalries started in this volume, but let's get into the beginning of the first mini arc. It basically starts off with Galian, the little mini dragon, eating the Dragon Emperor core from Nafumi's Barbary armor. And if we remember, that's a combination of both the Dragon Emperor core from the world they're currently in, and the Demon Dragon core from Kizuna's world. So when he eats that, he basically freaks out. He like gets taken over, possessed, and then he ends up just flying off to where the zombie dragon was living when Naofumi killed him. And because Philo ate the zombie dragon core, she's affected by this as well, and such that she starts losing levels as time goes on, and they're really like stressed that she's gonna end up dying because it's pretty powerful. I think she dropped like a good 20 levels, so it's a lot happened. But you know, they end up fighting off against the possessed Galian. Turns out that the demon dragon from Kizuna's world ends up possessing Galian, and then is basically just going on a rampage saying, "I'm gonna take over the world." You know, very stereotypical villain type of thing. But they end up beating the dragon, you know. They don't end up killing Galian, so that's cool. Alta played a big part. She was using, basically, she was using, like, the whole, like, I don't know what you call it, like, the false hero martial arts movesets to pretty good, uh, what's the word? Results. That's the word. Results. Got it there eventually. No, but because Galian 8 dual core, when they defeated the demon dragon, the adult Galian, the Galian that was like the father to the one slave, he ends up just sharing the body with the little dragon, but he doesn't want to like reveal that, so he kind of just like plays dumb. Some of the time they kind of just share a body and switch off. But the adult dragon can actually talk through the baby dragon. So that's pretty fun. He actually turns out to be like the smallest fragment of the Dragon Emperor. So, you know, that's gonna play a big part in the future. But after that, now Fumi and the gang recoup a little bit, and then they head over to Zelda Ball to continue to raise slaves' levels by fighting in the Colosseum. Now, this is where the big things start happening. We find out that there's this Colosseum fighter named, and get this, Perfect Hidden Justice. It's the most creative name I've ever heard in my entire life. But it's Isagi. Obviously, it's Isagi. And they basically trick him into going into a Colosseum fight. But he thinks it's going to be Naofumi, but it ends up being Rishia, so that's cool. Obviously, we find out that Witch was the one pulling the strings for Isagi. She was basically controlling him, and that's why he's out there in the... Hold on one second. There we go. That's why he's out in the Colosseum fighting. It's to win money, to help with her cause, because he's under the impression that she's being, you know... she's basically a victim of all of this that's going on. So during the actual fight, we see him use what he calls the Justice Bow. It's basically a cursed bow. It's heavily implied, and I think they end up confirming that it was like the Bow of Pride, essentially. And funny enough, it has the ability to brainwash people. So there actually is an ability to brainwash in the world. Now Fumi didn't have it, but you know she's still going to use it. Witch is still going to use it against Naofumi whenever she feels it's necessary to do so. So, but I digress. The point is, Rishia and Itsuki duke it out, and Rishia ends up victorious. She's using a lot of that, you know, false hero style of martial arts, and she's using a lot of knives and stuff. Her swords ends up breaking, but you know, after talking about justice for like 2 chapters, the bow actually gives her a power up. It was just like, you know what, we got to come up with something. Here's the power up. Just stop. Now, that's the thing that's a little iffy. It's getting into spoiler territory if you haven't read the web novels, so you might want to fast forward a little bit into this video, but basically this is the projectile vessel weapon. It's not the full weapon, because as we learn, it's the description, and I got it right here written down, it's described as semi-transparent and its form wavered. So it's like a middle ground. It's like it's not really there, but it's kind of there. And the reason for that is that the whip hero, wherever the hell he is, probably Fabry, he stole the weapon. But that's a little bit of a spoiler, but it's implied, so it's fine. But let's continue. Yeah, so after the fight ends, Itsuki is ditched by Witch and her gang. Or I guess Itsuki's old gang. They left. They took all the money that he was winning for them. They left him with debts. It was just a terrible situation. Now Fumi ends up just taking the debt on for himself so that Itsuki, doesn't have to deal with that, and that's probably for the best because Itsuki used the Pride Bow. He's obviously cursed. He used some of the skills, so his curse involves him having absolutely no emotion to some extent, and he ends up becoming a yes man essentially, where he doesn't really have a will. He just kind of, if you say something, he'll do it. He just kind of agrees. He can't lie. All of that. I think there's like one part where Naofumi was like, "Yo, take this rope, hang yourself," and he's about to do it. So they have to like say, "Oh, okay, yeah, no, don't do that." So Rishia, of course, being in love with Isuki, she's like, "Yeah, I'll be his caretaker, so that he's not taken advantage of." And that concludes that major arc with all of the other heroes, being tricked by Witch and subsequently getting cursed by Curse Series weapons. But the final parts of this volume involve setup for what I assume to be the next big arc, and that's going to be an invasion arc. So other than Naofumi training in the way of the dragon vein, that being just the magic where that doesn't come from you, it comes from outside of you. You have Naofumi present Raftalia with another Miko outfit, but we learned that the Miko outfit is actually important because it's the symbol of this like isolationist country out in the middle of nowhere. That it turns out that Raftalia is the heir to that throne. Surprise, surprise. And because she puts on the Miko outfit, that signals to them that that she wants the throne, and they're just like, what, assassination attempt. So they try to kill her. It doesn't work. They got some weird abilities where they can shut down heroes' powers, but they end up winning anyways. And now Fumu's like, what? It's time to invade a country. So that's where they're going to. They're going to invade the country called, and I'm going to butcher the name, Kyotin Low. Yeah, we're just going to call it Low from now on, make it easy. But that's what happens in the actual volume. I'd say it was one of the better volumes that I read thus far. There was a lot of story going on, a lot happened, characters were being introduced, you get some conclusions, some fights, In general, very nicely written, fast-paced, and overall enjoyable. I assume that's going to be where the second season of Shield Hero ends off, right around there. And they're probably going to pick up third season around where this next story arc begins with this whole invasion thing. But with that, Look for the review of Volume 13. I've read it, so it won't be too long before I put it out. But other than that, leave your thoughts about anything Shield Hero related, whether that be excitement for the announcement of the anime being renewed for a second or third season, whether that be, oh boy, there's going to be a new what's the word, light novel being released in America soon. The point is, leave your thoughts in the comments below, and as always, have a good day.